let's go ahead and go over the paper that I had just passed out. So again, this was the last new thing. All right. So today we're still talking about circles. The whole chapter's been about circles. This last one is about graphing circles. So two things that we're going to do in this section. Given information about a circle, either by giving the center point and radius, or by giving a picture of the graph, we need to be able to write the equation of a circle. Now, the equation of a circle is based off of our distance formula. So we had up at the top here, this definition a while back. A circle is the locus of points in a plane equal distance from a given point. You can use this definition to write an equation of a circle. So again, it's all points a given distance away from the center of the circle. That distance from the center is what we call the radius. So you guys had distance formula back in, and I can't remember what chapter that was. Chapter 1 or 2, we did distance formula. That's distance formula, right? What? I'm taking the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Now, this formula, since it's distance, this is actually what we're using to do the equation of a circle. Because, again, the circle itself is defined by all points a given distance away from the center point. So we're first going to replace this x1 and y1 with h and k. H and k represent the center of the circle. So at the center, but plugging in h and k here, we have d equals the square root of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. The distance here, also we can replace that piece. Instead of saying d in front, that's going to be our radius. Again, the distance that we're talking about that helps us define a circle is the radius. It's that given distance away from the center point. So now this equation is using the radius for the distance. H and k is a set point. That's the center point of our circle. And then x and y represent all the other points that are on the circle. Now, one last thing that's different from this to the final equation that they have there. We have the square root. They got rid of the square root by squaring it. So now we have r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. So a couple important things to notice here. When we have this written in standard form, the r value is squared on that one side of the equation. The h and the k have negative signs out in front of them. So it's always going to change your sign if we're taking values out or putting values in. Now, it doesn't matter if the r is at the beginning or r is at the end, it's the same thing. Let me scoop this up and we're going to do some of these problems down here. All right, let's start off with number 3. Right now, I'll come back to number 1. First off, we have those coordinates of 2, -4. That's our center point. So for our equation, we're plugging this in for h and this in for k. Our radius is 1. That's going in for r. Again, our equation, one more time, is r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. So the one's going in for r, 1 squared equals x minus 2 squared plus y minus -4, so it becomes +4 squared. Yeah, we just plugged everything in. Plug in the h value, plug in the k value, and we plugged in the radius. Now, the directions, it says write the equation in a circle. Most of the time, we do like to simplify it as well. I know it did say that in the directions. This was y squared, r squared, which was 1 squared is still just 1, so we can leave it like that. Yes, so that's square. Simplify, it's still just 1. All right, let's go over to number 4. Same thing. They're both negatives this time, and we have a radius of 2. So plug it in. We got 2 squared equals x plus 1 squared plus y plus 4 squared. Again, simplify it if you can. Here we have 2 squared. That is going to give us 4. Again, the other thing to notice is the values for the center point were negatives. Plug them in. Since there's a negative in front of those values, they change to positives. Now, one was a little bit different. Said center at 0, 0. Right. If we plug into this one, that's 8 squared equals x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared. All right. So on this one, if we simplify that one, 8 squared becomes 64. This one, we don't have to have the 0 there, so that's just x squared. Same thing here, this is just y squared. So if you don't have a value next to x or next to y, it's because that value was a 0. Right, so if it's at the origin, then it just ends up being x squared plus y squared. If we were, say, had a point at 0, 4, well, then the x value would be by itself. It's going to be just x squared. The y value would have y minus 4. All right, 7 and 8, a little bit different. So let's do one of those. On 7, it gives us a center. It says it passes through the point -1, -4. They don't give us a radius. That's fine. We just plug everything in. So on here, this is our center point, h and k. This would be our x and y values. Plug it into the equation. Don't know r yet. We have x. Oops. Plug in for x. X was -1 minus 3 for our h value squared plus our y value is -4 minus our k value is also -4. So that makes that +4. And then simplify. -1, -3 gives us -4. -4 and +4 gives us 0. -4 squared. Well, 4 times 4 is 16. We have 2 negatives, so it becomes positive. This is still just 0. So we have r squared equals 16. Now, we could actually stop it. We don't have to find the radius by itself because we're just writing an equation. At this point, I could say, all right, r squared is 16, so 16 equals x minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared. And that's my equation. Sometimes they will ask you to find the radius. So if I wanted to find the radius on this one, what would I have had to do as my last step? Square root it. So I would take in square root of both sides. This thing gave me r equals 4. 16 is r squared. All right, item number 9. they gave us a circle. But again, we can identify those points. So here, the center point of that circle is at -2, -1. We have center at -2, -1. We can see the radius by just counting the spaces. That has a radius of 2. So now for the equation, we just have to plug it in, just like we were doing before. The radius is 2, so 2 squared equals x plus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared. We could simplify this side as well. As before, everything else is still the same. Yeah, all these were all about writing our equation, getting other information. The other side is about giving the equation graph the circle. Say that. Can I get rid of that? Anyone?
You have Joseph Berman.
I'm gonna go ahead and clear this and go on to the other side. Okay, so now on this side, equations of circles. Now we're trying to get it in that format again. So again, this is the format that we wanted in. Sorry, that's the format that we're giving it this time. My bad. We're going backwards now. So we're given an equation. From that equation, we need to look at it and say, all right, what parts do we have? Well, on this one, do I have any values after the x and the y? No. So what does that mean about my center point? My center point. If I don't have an h and a k value here, what is h and k? 0. On this one, the center is going to be at 0. 0. 16, that's r squared. So r squared is 16. What's r by itself? How do we get r by itself? Square root. Square root both sides. R is 4. That's the information I need to graph. My center is at 0, 0. And then from that center point, my radius is 4. So I'm going out 4 units in each direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Reason why I did that, because now those points I know are on the circle, so that's going to help me draw a more accurate circle. Again, not perfect. All right, on the next one. Now this one does have an h and a k value. All right. Again, these values are r squared. So what's my center point? What's my center point going to be on this one? What was it? No, not 2, 0. Two. It's just going to be 2, 1, not negatives, because when I pull them out, the signs change. My original equation has negatives in it, so I'm going to pull that out. It said -2, so it'll be +2. That said -1, just be +1. The radius again. 9 is the radius squared. So what's the radius by itself? Square root the 9, and you get, that's my radius. Now I can graph that circle. 2, 1, will be my first point. That's the center. And then 3 units in each direction from that center point. And draw the circle. Number 3. Number 3, I have an H. Do I have a K? No, there's no K there. All right, and again, that's R squared. So my center point is going to be where? -2, 0. Good. So change their sign. It's -2. This one, we didn't have a value there, so it must be 0. And then R of R squared 16, the radius is the square root of that, which is 4. So graphing -2, 0, right there. Radius of 4, so going out 4 in each direction. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. Page 51 is on the back, right? Numbers 1 through 12. So basically all on page 51. That's your assignment.
You see the stadium?